what you said sounds great. It also seems to go against conventional portfolio wisdom,
Mm,
at least what as designers we're told,
sure.
right? Like
Certainly the bootcamp wisdom.
the boot camp wisdom,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Like have your case studies, make sure you have your metrics.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard keep
Lead-
it simple, focus on the work,
Lead with your value.
lead with your
That's-
value.
Yeah.
Do you take issue with that? Do you view it differently?
Hey, look, if you want to go work at a fan company, absolutely follow that formula. It'll at least get you in the door. If you want to come work for a company that is truly changing the way that we think about product, then do what I say.
What would you say to a designer who maybe is at one of those companies or a company like it where they're locked into a specific process that they have to follow, and maybe they don't have as much control or autonomy in terms of going up and spinning up a UXR team on their own or doing independent research? What would you say to them to try and build up that skill set?
Go have fun on the side. Go start your own thing, even if it's just part-time. If you're at a stage in your career where you're worried that the company you're working for is holding the body of work back for you, go complement it with something else.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's been 1 hour. I have one question I do want to ask, though.
Yeah.
If that's okay.
Absolutely.
I would love to talk about sort of where you see design broadly heading in terms of what's a successful designer of the future, 10 years, or 5 years, maybe 5 years plus.
Yeah.
What does a successful designer look like?
I don't think we're going to refer to each other as designers, honestly. Like, I think these artificial titles, designer, PM, engineer, and it has been a necessity because there were certain skill sets that you needed to really focus in on if you wanted to be competent in that area and be useful. We're now at a point of almost diminishing returns for overarching one way or another. So I expect to see a lot more hybrids like coming out where designers in the traditional sense are just as comfortable jumping into Cursor and getting 80% of the way there. And then working with somebody else who isn't calling themselves an engineer, but is having a lot of fun building out like cloud-based like architecture and solutions. And they're not necessarily doing that themselves in a traditional way. Maybe they've come from a PM background and they finally figured out how to make the transition to doing this thing that interests them. So yeah, I basically think you're going to start seeing a lot of these labels kind of like drop away. And I think it's clear from the design perspective that to be successful, even in the era that we're living right now, you need to embrace this new paradigm with AI, or you will get left behind. And that's not designed to be a shot across the bow to scare anyone. It's just to be useful, and that's what you got into product for. Was to be useful, was to unlock value in companies. You need to meet the technology where it's at. The same reason that you learned Figma and Sketch before it, and Lotus Notes somewhere back in the day, or Media Flash, or Photoshop. Yeah, our tool sets evolve all the time, and our job as quote unquote designers is to keep up with that and figure out what the best tool is to solve. And this is what we're talking about earlier, the communication problem. Because that traditional design process, we can just call it building product, a process for building product, a process for solving communication problems. We don't have to put other labels on it to kind of push people into boxes. So I'm really hoping that what this does is it allows more folks to just spin up their own ideas, work together more collaboratively, and just kill off, for the love of God, kill off middle management.
Love it.
Yeah, I do love it. I know offline, backstage, you mentioned that you have this model of thinking about designers generationally. I think that is relevant to this conversation, and I'd love to talk about it now.
Yeah, a lot has changed, funnily enough, over the years. And how I think about where we are right now versus where we were 25 years ago is very different. And the reason that folks get into design has changed. When I started out, design was a scrappy creative pursuit. The people that were making money were actually in ad agencies. Like they were doing, really big, high profile, like advertising campaigns on TV or on billboards and stuff. And like that was like the high prestige. We were still living very much in a print world that was just starting to switch over to digital. And so designers were really hungry for creativity back then. So we used to see like a lot more of like the traditional design thinking about graphic design and playing around with color theory, composition, and that tactile nature of working with physical tools. Now we've gone through a few different evolutions, and I know I'm probably aging myself quite badly. But we find ourselves, and we found ourselves actually in perhaps like the last 10 years with a new crop of designers and a new generation who haven't necessarily got into design for the right reason. What they saw instead was like a 6-figure salary that was once reserved for the doctors and lawyers of the world, now accessible with just a human interface certificate or a bootcamp course, and so dollar signs started rolling across people's eyes, and they pursued that career as a way to make money. And then everyone wanted to suddenly be like the next Mark Zuckerberg, or insert name of successful founder here, and walk away with one of those $1 billion exits. And it changed the culture like dramatically. We used to have tons of indie software companies that just built stuff for the fun of building it. And that died. I mean, we had a little bit of a resurgence in the App Store, and then everything became about freemium, and lots of different shifts there. So I won't go into all of it, but the natural curiosity that I was talking about earlier, that desire to play around with things and understand how they were built, started to shift because everything became so buttoned up. UI became sterile. Because it was like, well, this is the most successful way to drive clicks, to drive viewership. So if you don't have a hero treatment like this on your SaaS company, it's not going to make money. So like, you better do it that way. And that was like the Web 2 era. Like it really got to that point where designers were just designing like these very sterile like experiences and rectangles. And the generational thing is important to know, because it's fine for me to talk about the scrappy fun that we used to have like in the late 90s, early 2000s, because I lived it. But if you just started your career 5-10 years ago, you have no real idea. Like maybe it's just this old guy right here on this podcast talking about it, but you have no relationship to that time. So you don't know how to go ahead and execute in a way that makes sense. So we're now at this point where we have a bunch of like, mid-weight designers who don't know how to think creatively. They just know how to build patterns and design systems and libraries and re-execute the same thing with a slightly different flavor in a slightly different way for a slightly different product. And that is why we are where we are, where it doesn't matter whether you, and I'm going to get in trouble from other folks here, but when you pick up Notion or you pick up one of the other productivity apps out there, like whether it's OpenAI or Anthropic, even though it's driven by new technology, it all feels the same. Like it's all really sterile. And so it's being built by that generation of designers who grew up that way, and that's what they know. So I am a little bit more bullish about what's next, because I think the sea change that we're seeing right now with AI is actually forcing us to rethink. I know I just used OpenAI, but I think it's because they went for perhaps the easiest route for how to display conversational snippets. I think we're actually they're gonna actually have a lot more fun when they break out of that mold. And I think we are beginning to see it emerge in other products and experiences. Funnily enough, we're starting to see more interesting like SaaS websites pop up. So I think that playfulness is returning, and I hope the next generation of designers are able to really embrace that, and so we can move past this sterile Web 2.0 era.
How would you say the next generation of designers should try to lean into that? We've discussed embracing AI tooling, but should they also consider like studying graphic design of the past and understanding how design got here? Or what are your thoughts there?
So I think I talked about this in our conversation before, but if you take a look at some of the movements throughout history, like the Bauhaus movement, I think is a really interesting example, where they were trying to rebuild a country off the back of a war. Everything's decimated. So what are the things that are really important to building a new community, a new society? And it wasn't just architecture. It wasn't just rebuilding stuff. It wasn't just putting roads together and thinking about government and all that kind of stuff. It was craft. It was industry in the sense of how do we get weavers? Like, how do we get a supply chain sorted out there? How do we attract them into this new vision that we want to create? Painters are really important because emotion is important to us as human beings. That resonance that we have with the tactile, with the visceral. So we need to engage them. And yeah, sure, we need city architects. So we need to engage them. And we need graphic designers because we got to keep printing material to share and communicate. That's a whole family. Like that's a whole community of different disciplines coming together to be greater than the sum of their parts. And so I encourage every designer, in fact, I encourage everyone to go out and live a little, to go explore different things, go out of your comfort zone. Like if you're interested in creativity and you spend all day in Figma, go take photographs, go learn about composition. If you don't know anything about color theory, go draw, go like take some illustration classes. If you want to learn business, good luck to you. It's boring, but no, go take a course on business and try to weave your own personality and your own interests through it and come out the other side much stronger and much more empathetic. So go travel, go live in a country where you don't speak the language, especially if you're young. If you're in your 20s, you have no excuse. You should not be in your hometown anymore unless there is some kind of family reason that necessitates you being there. Otherwise, for the love of God, please go out and travel. Go explore different cultures, understand the way that the world works, because it's not just this box that you currently live in. As you grow and you learn, then you can start to specialize. There is a really important thing about mastering a specific area of craft. But you can't understand what that should be until you've gone and experienced a whole bunch of other things. So that's my advice to folks out there.